Welcome back to the Pack Mentality Podcast. I'm Matt Banwart. My wife, Caitlin, and I own Red Wolf CrossFit in Huntington Beach, California. And we started this podcast with one goal in mind, and that was to make fitness education accessible, engaging, and effective for everyone. Today, Caitlin and I are going to be chatting about how to actually start enjoying working out every day. And we're just kind of share our experiences, and we hope that you find a few nuggets in this podcast and you can take and implement these into your personal strategy. So let's rock and roll. Let's go ahead and chat about what we're actually be going over today. So we're going to be talking about kind of the dynamic between pain and pleasure, and that's how kind of a motivator for both of Caitlin and I and throughout our history of fitness. And then we're going to kind of share a personal story of transformation that we've seen in one of our clients. And then we're going to kind of talk about the importance of aesthetics in fitness. And then finally, we're going to end with the evolution of the fitness phases that we've kind of gone through and how our priorities have kind of changed throughout our life, starting from when we first started working out to what we kind of do now as a motivator. So, Caitlin, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Let's do this. So I do want to talk about, or start off by talking about the significance of finding pleasure in workouts. And I know that you've been working out for a long time. I've been working out for 20 plus years. You've been working out for 20 plus years. So, what currently now is like your main motivator, or how do you enjoy working out like as of today?
Well, I truly enjoy working out just for everything, the suffering, the PRs, the good, the bad, everything kind of involved. But that just comes from years and years of kind of doing it. And I choose to do it in a CrossFit style. I've done it many different ways, originally starting back when I did volleyball. I mean, we just did plyometrics, mostly a lot of jumping, kettlebell swings, ball slams, like a lot of that stuff. And then over time kind of went into weightlifting, Olympic weightlifting, and then CrossFit has definitely been like the main thing I've done. And it's motivating to me because it's a little bit competitive, it has a good community, and overall, it gets me the fitness that I want.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think that one of my main things of how I currently enjoy working out every day is that I get pleasure just from the act itself, from just the behavior, because I think just like you, over time, we've been rewarded over, just doing it, and there's been times where it wasn't always fun or pleasurable for us, but we found a way to make it to where we enjoyed it, doing it every day.
Yeah. I mean, we have all those like small wins, and stacked on top of each other, it just gets better over time. And then you don't know anything different.
Yeah.
And honestly, when we say we've been working out for 20 plus years, we include like all of our background in sports, because Matt and I both did a lot of like one-on-one training with coaches, and we played on teams for a very long time. And that incorporated, a lot of fitness in itself, things that most people do now currently, like bodybuilding stuff and all that stuff. So we definitely gained pleasure just from repetitive action. Yeah.
And I do want to read this quote that I found found really helpful that relates to this podcast, and what we're going to chat about too is that here's the quote. It says, "The secret of success is learning how to use pain and pleasure instead of having pain and pleasure use you. If you do that, you're in control of your decisions and ultimately your life. If you don't, life controls you." So let's kind of chat about the significance of finding pleasure in your workout. So we kind of gave a brief overview. We just had the quote. I think there was a time where you were both had like a pain and pleasure when you kind of first started.
Yeah. I mean, looking back to my earliest fitness days, I've played volleyball from a very young age, and it was definitely like my world growing up. And going into senior year, I used the pain point of doubt. Everybody doubted not only our team, but me individually, being able to, be the best player. And that's what I really wanted to do. And so that really motivated me to work super hard. I mean, I'm talking, I did extra workouts on my own with another coach, all the time. And it ended up, working out in my favor in the end. And that was pleasurable. And I was like, wow, like hard work really does like pay off in the end. And that was one of the first moments where like light bulb moments where I was like, this is definitely something that I want to use for the rest of my life, as far as knowing that if I put in the hard work, I'm going to get rewarded in the end. And that was really nice to have.
Yeah, same thing with me. Like a lot of my motivation started earlier was always motivated by pain, and then the pleasure ended up coming afterwards. So I think that's what a lot of people kind of struggle with, is that there's a hump that you have to get over, which is kind of painful. But then once you see the reward from that, then you start wanting more of it, because you're like, okay, I just have to go through this and I will get rewarded, and I do this again and I will get rewarded. And it's unfortunate, but pain does come before pleasure a lot of times.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people think they're putting in enough effort in order to get that pleasure in the end. If we relate it to fitness, a lot of people have that pain point of, oh, I'm overweight and I want to lose weight. And then they work out consistently, but they're not seeing any result, and they're not getting to that pleasure point. But in reality, you have to like really give it your all and really hone in and focus, and then it'll come. But it does take a long time. I mean, for me, volleyball took my whole life. I mean, from 5 to 18 until I really got the final reward, and then as far as CrossFit goes, I mean, I've only been doing this for about 10 years, and I'm only getting better, actually. So I don't know what the end point is or what things will turn into, but for now, this is what I choose to do for fitness. Yeah,
absolutely. And I do want to kind of talk about like the whole pain and pleasure and how it relates to this rat experiment that I heard about on another podcast that they talked about. It was, so what they did was they put a rat in like a box or something, somehow to measure, and then they had something attached to its tail to where they could measure the amount of tension it would pull. And so what they did was they wafted the scent of cheese in from the front, okay, and then they measured how hard it would pull, and then once they kind of got measurements from that, then they stopped the cheese, and then they wafted in the smell of a cat behind it to also see, what the fear would indicate and how much tension it would pull, and then they stopped that, and then they did both at the same time. And what they found was when they wafted the cheese in from the front and they wafted in the smell of a cat from behind it, that's when it actually had the most tension, because it had it was running away from something,
right.
It was running away from pain, and it was running towards pleasure at the same time. And that's when they got the most amount of results. And I think that a lot of times when it comes to actually enjoying working out every day is that you need to have some sort of a pain point that's motivating enough to actually get you to do something about it.
Yeah.
But also have a reward at the end of that tunnel.
Yeah. I mean, having a plan and having goals is what's necessary, really. Like, you have to have a very set pain point and write it out, or like make sure it's very visual and tangible, and then work from there as far as your goal goes. And then that's how you're going to get to the pleasure point. And when people cannot identify either, then you're just going to stay stagnant.
Yeah.
Or just get worse.
Yeah. And I think you had another.
Oh yeah, and you were talking about that.
Yeah.
And I was thinking about how there was this another rat. Weird how it's rats. Rat experiment.
Always rats.
Experiment about so they threw these rats into a pool, and they were going to test the willpower. So they threw the rats into the pool, and they just see how long it takes until they were about to drown. And just before they drown, which was like a minute or so or whatever, they pull the rat out, right? And they let the rat recover. And then, so they're going to try it again. So they throw the rat into the pool, and this time they wanted to see how long the rat would tread water for. Well, guess how long it tread water for?
I want to say like an hour.
No, it was like 24 hours. It kept
really?
treading water because it had that one reward of, if I tread water right there, I'm going to get saved, basically. And so because of that just one experience, it was able to push even further than it was the first time.
Right.
And so it was supposed to kind of illustrate how, people's willpower is only so much until you're really pushed into a very painful situation and you're able to push through.
Yeah, that's very true. And a lot of times, like, the best transformations actually come from pain. Because, I mean, really, when you look at it, like, pain and fear are the greatest motivators.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm scared. As a parent, I'm afraid of what would happen to me. Should everything happen to me, what's going to happen to my kids? And so that's why one of the main motivators for myself is to stay healthy for my children. And I don't know how all parents should feel the same way. I mean, that's self-care, and taking care of yourself is taking care of your family.
Yeah, absolutely. And that kind of leads me into a story I kind of want to tell about one of my one-on-one clients. And one of the main reasons he started doing personal training with me it wasn't because he didn't enjoy the classes. He still does classes. He does pretty much a hybrid. He does 2 sessions with me, and then he tries to come in 1 or 2 times to classes. And a big thing for him, motivator to start working a little bit more specifically on his health, was that he watched his dad, who used to be very athletic and would be very active, slowly deteriorate. And he had a heart condition, and he got to the point where he was almost completely immobile, to not in terms of like how we think of it, but like he couldn't really get around on his own. And then he watched it, and it was a very slow process, and it was very tough on him to watch that. And so when you think about it, he kind of lived his last days somewhat isolated in terms of like he can't really help himself. And he told me that, a big reason why he started working out again and wanted to work one-on-one with me was just because he didn't want to end up like his dad, and he wanted to be there for his kids. And so he was running away from pain. And then recently I talked to him, be like, hey, how are the workouts going? How's the training going? And then he told me, he's like, no, it's great. Like my heart rate lowers a lot faster from doing physical activity. I feel better. I look better. And I have more endurance when I play with my kids. I can because we changed up his training to where we worked more on muscle endurance and longevity stuff. And it's starting to pay off because he's able to play with his kids longer. He's able to be on his feet more. And so he gets the reward of that right now already, plus the reward of, better longevity. But it all started with him running away, or sorry, not running away, but having a pain point.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's important for I like that your client noticed, all these little things, these little nuggets of things that happen just taking care of his fitness and his health, right? And it's not going to be directly correlated to in the gym things, or, your aesthetics might not change as quickly as you want, but it's all these little things that add up. And those rewarding things stacked on top of each other is what should motivate you to continue on and to always do fitness and to always work on yourself. And it's very obvious to me now. I can tell the difference between somebody who takes care of themselves, who takes care of their health, and versus somebody who absolutely doesn't. The aging between 2 people, like somebody who takes care of themselves that's 50 versus somebody who doesn't take care of themselves, it's very obvious. Right. And so, and it's not just, again, aesthetics, it's just all the other pieces, like the endurance to play with kids or to keep up in a group of friends, walking around, simple things like that. It really pays off. Oh yeah, 100%. And it's funny you mentioned that because yesterday when you brought the kids to the gym and they wanted me to chase them around, and it was like I had the energy to do it, even though I really was tired. Like I had a long day. I was tired from working out and just stress and everything, just like any other adult. But I was like, I still had the ability to chase them for as long as I needed to to kind of wear them out. And it's nice knowing that I can just turn it on right then and there. That I don't have to rev myself up or hype myself up just to chase my kids around the gym or chase them, period. And you can tell how much it means to them that, I'm physically active and I want to, try and keep up with them. Yeah, absolutely. And what's also nice is that we're surrounded by other individuals in our community that support that lifestyle as well. Like a lot of our members do notice that we're able to play a lot with our kids or run around a lot, or how do we have the energy to coach 5 a.m. and be here at the end of the night? I get that question all the time. And it's simply because our family is very structured and plan oriented. And honestly, health and fitness is one of our top priorities. And because it's a top priority, we make sure everything is lined up so that we can do the things that we do. Yeah. Right. And everything is a choice, and working out is a choice. Living a healthy lifestyle is a choice. You can't be half in, half out. It's all in or nothing. And once you go all in, a lot of things will start to change in a positive way. Yeah, absolutely. And I like what you said about that, because that kind of leads me into something I want to talk about, which is the environment that we're in. And when it comes to wanting or actually enjoying working out every day, when you're surrounded by a bunch of people who also are on the same journey and find a way to enjoy working out every day, suddenly it kind of rubs off on you, because, when you're put in a situation where, everyone else is doing it, everyone has a herd mentality regardless of where you're at, like whether it's politics, whether it's, fitness or
anything else that you do is that if you can kind of get into a herd, you will kind of have that herd mentality and then start, that path on your own. And then eventually you will start inheriting not inheriting, but some of those traits, those positive character traits from other people who you're around will start rubbing off on you.
Yeah. It's always important to have somebody like slightly out of reach or that you're striving for, right? It's always going to push you forward. And I really think my life changed when I started surrounding myself around people around Red Wolf and like-minded individuals, and really started opening up my mind to other possibilities and to also push harder, because then I saw like what it takes to be a successful adult, right? Because we're only 30 and I want to be successful like some of my clients who are older than me. I want to also be like them as well in that sense. So we're always, working off of each other's energies, and it's good to surround yourself with a really positive, supportive one.
Yeah. And that leads me into something I actually want to ask you, which is, other than yourself, and you work with a lot of people who are high achievers as well, with personal training. What are some character traits that you do see with some of our members who actually do enjoy working out every day that would be helpful for maybe someone who's struggling right now with enjoying working out every day?
I see that the most successful people in our gym have very distinct goals in mind. They know exactly what they want, and they know what they're striving for, and they are definitely okay and open-minded to how long the process is going to take. Yeah. And that's definitely a mental attitude that people need to have. And the most successful ones, who are willing to work hard and put in all the little, pieces, have seen the most progress for sure. And definitely within the last 2 years, I can see a distinct difference between those individuals who have really like taken hold of the whole fitness is life, fitness is longevity kind of mindset. Like those are the ones that are seeing the best results.
Right. And what kind of behaviors do those people have?
Just the mindset that like they're going to do this every day, and they're willing to, scale workouts when needed, or if they're not going to come into the gym, they still prioritize like getting out in the sun, going for a walk, getting in their steps. Like they definitely have fitness as one of the top 3 priorities in their life, and they make sure they structure their life in that way to make it fit in. And when you do that, like structuring your life really helps out financially. Your family life gets a lot better because you plan time to spend with each other. There's so many other things that line up, and you can just see how impactful fitness is for these individuals.
Yeah, absolutely. No, very well said. Thank you for sharing that. Let's kind of talk about the importance of aesthetics in fitness, because I think a lot of people do work out specifically to look good, and that is the reward and 100%. The end game a lot of times, right? I mean, I do that. Yeah. You do that.
I mean, the number one goal people come into the gym with is I want to either A, lose weight, or B, get more muscular, right? Put on muscle mass. It's always one of the two. It's only when you fall in love with the process that you then have our mindset, which is fitness is longevity in life. But in the back of our minds is always it's aesthetics. Yeah. I want to look good. I know you want to look good. Like also I think as you get older, it's almost even more important to look good. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like if you're 50 and you look like super jacked, that's super impressive. Like not just physically, but wow, like mentally, how many years of work that person has probably put in behind it. Right. So it's almost like a status thing. Yeah. In that sense. So don't let anybody ever tell you that they're not in it to look good. That's like the driving force.
Yeah. And I think it goes beyond just the looking good, just goes beyond just like the whole vanity aspect. I think a lot of it is it's a reflection of who you are internally. Yeah. So for example,
self-care.
For example, like if someone, let's say, how would you feel if I gained 100 pounds of fat?
It would be bad.
But that would also just be an indicator
it's disappointing. Yeah.
Yeah. It'd be an indicator that there's something wrong, going on wrong.
So many things are wrong. Yeah. Mentally, physically, your life, what happened?
Yeah. Yeah. Like if I let myself go, then it would just be an indicator that there's something going on underneath the hood. Yeah.
I would have thought you've given up then.
Yeah. And then, so it's not even more about the weight gain that I would have. It would be more about like the person who I became. So I think that, while we do want to look good just for like the whole, vain aspect of just like, because I look good,
Yeah.
That you want to be attractive, which is, there's nothing wrong with that. But at the same time, like, think of all the other things that you get with that. It's like, you get the reflection. You are automatically a walking billboard of the kind of person that you are. You're someone who's disciplined. You're someone who can stick with something for a long time.
Yep, you're a hard
someone,
worker.
you're someone who's committed. You're someone who has the ability to say no.
Follow through.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of times that's actually what people want.
Absolutely.
As a reflection.
Yeah, 100%. Like that's what it means, right? Physically, you see one thing, but in the back of my mind, especially like in this field, I think it's awesome when I see fit people out in the wild. I'm just like, wow, like that person works really hard. I think a lot of people have a poor judgment of steroids is one thing. Like, I mean, one thing is you can do steroids all you want and not get any results, but you still have to put in the hard work. So when you see the physical aspect, like, just know people still put in a lot of hard work to get there.
Yeah, absolutely. And when it comes to aesthetics and fitness also is that there's forgot what I was going to say.
For me personally, I have very defined goals as far as like how I want to look. So maybe if you're on your fitness journey and, maybe you're in the process of trying to lose weight or trying to gain muscle, I like to have a physical image of what that looks like. So if a client tells me, I want to lose 10 pounds. I'm almost like, can you show me a picture of someone who you want to look like? And then they show me that picture and I say, okay, this person, you don't need to actually lose weight. What you need to do is actually gain muscle. So it puts into perspective more of what type of goal you're looking for, what type of aesthetic look you're looking for. And it's easier to plan what it's going to take to get there. Because some people might need a lot of bodybuilding and some people might need to, do a lot more aerobic work, a lot more cardio, like lose weight right now. And then let's work on building muscle mass because this is the type of person you want to be.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And let's kind of move on to kind of like the different phases that we've gone throughout our lives and what, we've done to actually enjoy working out every day. And I kind of started off with first, my main goal was just strictly sport performance. So I was running away from something, or I had a pain point, which was that I wasn't good enough. I wasn't strong enough. I wasn't fast enough. I was too skinny. And so when my coach told me that, it immediately had a huge pain point for me. And so that immediately kickstarted me into working out a lot harder. And then months later, I got the reward from that by actually making the team and, them actually telling me, they're like, man, we've noticed a huge change. And that was on the day I showed up too. Like it was before I even stepped foot on the field.
You put on 20 pounds.
Yeah, exactly. They just saw me, physically and they were like, okay, you put in some work.
Yeah.
And so right then and there, I instantly got more respect.
Yeah, that's the exact example.
Yes. And I think kind of going back to what we were talking about earlier, which is more than just aesthetics, is that you also, when you look like someone who's disciplined and you look like someone who can follow through, you automatically get more respect from that.
Absolutely.
And so when I got rewarded from that, it's like, okay, well, I'm going to do more of that because I got rewarded for that. So why wouldn't I continue to keep working out? Because my main thing was when I first started CrossFit was like, I'm just going to do this until I get better at my sport and my performance goes up. And then once I'm done with my sport, I'm done.
Yeah.
I'm not going to work out anymore. that was seriously my end game. And then obviously that did not happen.
Yeah.
But it was just because I just got rewarded over and over again. And then the second phase I kind of went through was the sport of CrossFit itself. So this was phase 2. This is when I was done with baseball. I was like, I'm just going to go into CrossFit full time because I liked it more than baseball. So I stopped playing baseball. I didn't play my senior year and just went all into CrossFit because I wanted to coach too. I had my level 1, started coaching, started competing. And so that it became more about like the pleasure of wanting to be a competitor.
Yeah, win.
And compete. I also had the pain points still, but it was mostly pleasure. And going towards that and going to regionals a few times and winning some local competitions. And then once I would say that I kind of slowed down on that around 2018, 2019. is when, because that was about 10, 11 years in, and I'm like, okay, this isn't really like what I want anymore. And that's also when we had our first kid in 2018, and then we had Maya in 2020, and then Hunter in 2021, December 2021.
Yeah.
So 3 kids right there in a span of 3 years. And so I was like, hey, you know what? I'm going to go more into health and longevity.
Dad mode.
And what I've done recently, which I found was really helpful, is that I give myself mini challenges of things that, you know, I've always wanted to be good at, but I was never quite got there. So for example, right now I'm doing 20 handstand push-ups a day until I can do 20 unbroken, which gives me a long enough time horizon to work on it for a very long, I have a feeling I'll be working on this for a long time because I've never been good at strict handstand push-ups. But it gives me one singular focus, which is nice, specifically fitness based, that does keep me motivated because I do see progress.
Yeah.
Like for example, probably only like a few weeks ago, I started only at one, probably over a month and a half ago. I could only do like one just because I took so much time off from doing strict handstand push-ups and handstand push-ups in general. And then now I'm up to 9 unbroken.
Nice.
And so, I mean, I don't do that every day, but you see the progress, and you know, not every day is like that. Like the majority of days I can get like 4 or 5. Yeah. But there are days when I'm fresh.
Still better.
And it's still way better than what I did. Yeah. So it's nice to be chasing something and to have days where I do really well. And there's some days where I don't do as well, but sometimes you also have to measure in other ways. So for example, I do measure how fast it takes me. So for example, let's say I don't get a big set unbroken. That's fine. Let's see how less I can rest between sets. Or let's see how the speed of each rep does. So the more ways you measure, the more ways you can win.
Yeah, just the comparison in general is really helpful. And I like that you use that one singular goal, because I think a lot of people, you know, take on way too much when they first start not even just first start their fitness journey, but just in general, they always pick way too many goals. Like, we just got to pick one, follow through on that one, finish it, and then move on, because people won't ever finish anything. As soon as it gets hard, as soon as it gets quote unquote boring, they just want to move on to the next fun new task. But if you don't follow through on the first one, that's now a habit, basically, right? You're just never going to follow through on anything, and you'll never see progress.
Yeah, absolutely. I think people come in maybe not with too many goals, but their goal is too broad. Yeah. So it's like, how do we have measuring sticks on this to where we can actually show you progress? And so, you know, the more ways you can measure, like for example, let's say someone does want to lose weight. Okay, how much weight do you want to lose? You want to lose 20 pounds? Okay, 20 pounds. Let's make it 20 pounds. There are other ways to measure other than just the weight. Yeah, like you can do measurements, you can do body fat percentage, you can even look at muscle mass, even though it's not relative, but it's like, gains. And you can look at, you can look at also the kind of like some intangibles, which is like, how do you feel? Do you feel better? Is your energy balance better? Are you not brain foggy? Yeah. Do you have more energy throughout the day? Are you sleeping better? Are you less stressed? Like, all these things are different metrics that aren't always, I guess, measured in the most objective way, but they still matter. Yeah. And they should keep you motivated, pushing you forward. Yeah. For me, I guess my, fitness journey of motivation, started with sports in general, just wanting to be the best. I was very competitive from a very young age and just always wanted to be number one. So worked endlessly with personal trainers since like the 7th grade, did like a lot of one-on-one clinics, mostly did plyometrics. Like I said before, a lot of jumping, sprinting, kettlebell swings, a lot of those. Was pretty much my life up until college. College, we did a little bit more weightlifting, a little bit of Olympic weightlifting, nothing really trained, still a lot of plyometrics and sprinting. And that's pretty much most of how my training went. And my main motivator was just always to try to be the best in the gym, try to be on the best team. And then, like I said before, my pain point was being doubted and trying to prove something. And then after, my volleyball career kind of ended, I too was kind of like, well, do I just do nothing? Like, what do people do for fitness? I was so used to showing up for a team, or showing up to like a one-on-one personal training session, which I could not afford after college at the time by myself. So I was kind of lost and tried 24-hour fitness for a little bit. That was terrible.
had no idea what I was doing. Never worked on machines before in my life. So was really lost there, and ended up doing CrossFit with friends, and really kind of like fell in love with that because it was really hard to me. I thought it was cool to lift weights. And if you know my background, my first 2 years of CrossFit, I basically could not do a lot because I was in a cast. I had broke my arm. It was a crazy first 2 years. And then I've never really been competitive in CrossFit, surprisingly, since I'm such a competitive person. You know, we had kids, and that kind of took up a good portion of my CrossFit time. 10 years now in CrossFit, at least 5, no, almost 6, I would say I was pregnant, breastfeeding, or just dealing with kids. And so my fitness motivation has changed mostly to just being a good parent, a good example, and being fit enough to beat my kids. They're my new competition now.
They are.
So
They
I need to stay ahead of them. And like currently, our daughters are doing gymnastics, and I am trying so hard to stay ahead of them in that. And I'm just not flexible enough. So working on the back bends and the more gymnastics movements has been my main focus. And again, like, I'm just trying to stay ahead of them. That's my motivation right now.
Right.
And I'm making that a priority because I want to show them that health and fitness should be a priority in your life. You should have a goal. You should have something that drives you. And again, that only structures your life into a more organized way.
Yeah, absolutely. Very well said. That was a really good summary of your entire fitness journey, which was fantastic. Very cool. Let's kind of wrap up with this. Let's kind of chat about, like, if you were to give people advice, let's say who didn't have sports, and let's say they're having trouble finding pain points or even pleasure points, because I think that's going to be hard for some people. What advice would you give them?
Number one, I mean, it needs to be self-care first. I think anybody needs to start seeing health and fitness as just a form of like self-care, daily hygiene, basically, right? If you brush your teeth every day, you brush your hair, you take a bath, you do all these things, fitness needs to be one of those things. I think once you kind of like, okay, like I'm going to make this a part of my health and my life and something that I need to do daily, that would be the first kind of way to get going as far as a pain point goes, or maybe a pleasure point. And then after that, I think look a little bit externally into your family. Like what would your family think if you started working out, right? Would they be happy for you? Most likely, right? If that makes you happy, or if you became a better person, I think they would support you in that. Or, you know, what would happen if I didn't work out? Would that affect my family in a negative way? And if the answer is yes to that, then you should definitely be exercising. Yeah.
And what's some other pieces of advice that you would give to actually enjoy it, the process?
Set mini goals. I like what you said about just having these little mini goals and tasks and wins. And I think it's important to remind yourself of those wins and surround yourself with people who will also celebrate those wins with you, right? Because if you're just the only one who's kind of like noticing it, it's not, I mean, unless you're a very driven person, it's not that easy. But again, if you surround yourself with the right people who also think it's cool if you PR'd your back squat by 5 pounds, like it's very motivating in that sense.
Yeah. I guess my pieces of advice that I'll wrap up with is that find a way to gamify it. I think that's one of the best ways to
be competitive.
Yeah, to be competitive with yourself. Exactly. Because like I said with my handstand push-up example, it's like I don't always have to get a set unbroken. Like I don't have to PR every time, but I just measure in different ways. So whatever your singular focus is, try and find something specific that's a singular focus that's easy to measure and measure in multiple ways. And I think that's going to be really helpful because that helped me a lot. And that kind of brought up kind of an old memory of mine when I first started CrossFit. When CrossFit first kind of came out with CrossFit.com, that's really the only places to get workouts. And the variety back then was not very good, I'll be honest. So we would do Cindy at least once a month. If you don't know what Cindy is, it's an AMRAP 20 minutes of 5 pull-ups, 10 push-ups, 15 squats. And I remember, because I would do it so frequently, that I would PR every time by a lot, just because I would just, I was kind of going from nothing to something, but at the time, but I got rewarded from that a lot because I had a measurement. every time that I would get better, because I wouldn't say my fitness always got better, but I also became more efficient. Like my kipping became more efficient. I went from I went from strict to regular kipping to butterfly. And then I started off just being terrible at push-ups, and then better at push-ups, but I didn't know how to pace push-ups because I just tried to go out hot and furious. And then I started to learn how to pace them a little bit better, so I would actually get more output per unit of time. And then on the same thing with the air squats, like I couldn't squat to full depth when I first started. So does that my first time even count?
Yeah.
And then, so I was able to do more rounds, more reps with better range of motion, with better pacing. And then, so when you see progress like that, it finds a way to get rewarded. So in order to get to the point where you enjoy working out every day, you have to find those mini rewards every time you do it.
Yeah.
I mean, I know we talked about long-term rewards, and we also talked about pain going backwards, but if you can find a way to get it rewarded to yourself personally every time you do it, that will make it a lot easier.
Yeah, I think you're right. And I think you have to also be mentally like flexible and know that like your journey is going to constantly change, right? And I was just telling somebody this the other day, like with their, for example, with their Foreman technique, their technique is starting to change because they've lost a lot of weight. And so you have to be willing to always make progress and make change and be okay with that as well. And just know your journey is going to change, and it's about the choices you make. I choose to do CrossFit because I think it's fun and exciting, and I get to bodybuild and Olympic lift and run and do all these things at once. I don't know if I'm going to do CrossFit 20 years from now. I don't know what I'm going to choose to do. Maybe marathons. I don't know. But one of our newest members is 73, and he was telling me how his fitness journey has been crazy. I mean, from when he was 50 to 60, he did swimming, all swimming. And then from 60 to 70, he did soccer. And he like kicked the soccer ball around. He still does that to this day. But that was like his choice of fitness. And he talks about how he chose to do different types of fitness, but always had these goals. And, he stuck with it for like a decade. And so just know that if you're on a fitness journey, or if you haven't started one yet, like you need to start and be along for the ride, and just know it's going to be a long time, and it's going to be fun. And it's about what you choose to do with your time that really matters. Yeah.
Well said. Couldn't have said it better myself. Well said. Nailed it. Any final thoughts that you want to talk about before we wrap things up? Okay. Awesome. Well, thank you everyone for listening to this, and please do me a favor and please leave us a review or share this with a friend. Our goal with this is really just to be helpful, and when we hear people tell us that they listen to the podcast, or we get a message, or it means a lot to us because we don't know how many people actually listen to this. So it's really motivating when you guys either tell us or message us, and it keeps us wanting to make the content even better.
Yep.
So do me a favor, please leave a review, please share it with a friend, because at the end of the day, we just want to help. So thank you so much for listening. Again, please leave us a review if this was helpful, and we'll catch you next time. Good luck. Have fun.
Nailed it.